Okay. This is the pre-show?
Yeah, the
Welcome
pre-show.
to the pre-show.
Welcome.
This is exclusive content.
For all of our two listeners on
Yes.
Facebook Live.
All
right.
of them. Right?
Yeah,
All of
yeah.
them. We,
So-
you know, the motto of the show.
What is
Driving listeners away one at a time.
I think that's your motto. I'm pretty sure our chief marketing officer would not like you to keep repeating that motto.
Lisa's the one, she's the one who gave me that.
Is she really? Did
yeah, she
stamp
told
it
me
and
to say
everything?
that.
No kidding.
She
Wow.
said for me, she said, I want you to say that on the air.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
John
she-
and I actually were saying that. That was before we had a marketing director who, was smart and knew what we were doing. Knew. So,
Yeah, you should stop that.
oh, wow. Yeah, Tammy's microphone. We're going to share a microphone? How about this one right here?
I'm gonna sit by Devin.
Oh, come
Well,
over here,
shucks, you could have just
sweetheart.
Yeah.
2 minutes till the music.
minutes till
All
music.
right. So
And
for exclusive content listeners, we have our guest Pat Scanlin that's going to be on the show today.
Right.
Pat, well, he's actually not going to be. He's on the show.
Yeah, he's
He is a West Point
Present
graduate.
tense.
He's an Army guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Field artillery to be exact.
oh,
you're an artillery guy?
Yeah. I forgot to tell you about that.
Oh.
I'll be there.
I was intending on having John here so we could give John hell about artillery at the same time as Pat. But
Well, we can still do that.
I mean, we still can. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm
Okay.
inclusive, man.
You know, John Gallina is a artillery guy, and he likes to claim that
King of battle.
king of battle. Yes.
Yeah.
What is going on, Tammy? What are you doing?
Musical chair.
Why do you keep moving your pocketbook with you? Are you afraid somebody's going to take it?
Yeah, you can just leave it. You can
Except
just
I don't
leave it.
have headphones because Devin took them.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's because these headphones have terrible static. Hold on one second. Let me see. Let me see if this one works. Oh, it doesn't have terrible static this time, and they're
Okay.
about the same. All right, great.
All right. Hey, you know, those watching on Facebook,
nope, it does.
everybody watching on Facebook is getting some high quality entertainment right now.
Wow, yeah, that's working.
Yeah. Now, you got a volume button too.
Yeah, that one is broken.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was terrible last week when I was trying to use that one, and
I like being at the head of the table.
Well, you're always in charge anyhow. So.
all right, we're getting
All right.
ready to go
Here we
live
go,
there,
Pat.
Pat. Well, not live, but
Yeah, it's live.
You got
Yeah.
a visual?
It's live.
Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Gallina and Brad Borders.
Hey, welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. And you can find out more about what we do for veterans each and every day at phhusa.org. We're joined in the fabulous new studio, fabulous new WSIC studio. This is awesome. Isn't it?
it is, except for I've got this cord that's like 7 miles.
It's an
long.
umbilical cord.
Yeah, it's
Said you
Yeah.
could undo it and change it.
Yeah, it's like you're going on a spacewalk.
I know.
Right? He's tethered. He's tethered. He is tethered. Quick, cut his oxygen off.
I think we have a problem.
We do
It's
definitely have a problem.
Yeah.
So our beloved brother, Mr. Gallina, is off on another secret mission, trying to acquire something for someone, I'm sure. Trying to do some good things for people in the world, do something good for a veteran somewhere.
Absolutely.
I'm sure of it.
You know, he's got so many secret missions because, unlike us, he actually works for a living.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know what you do all day,
Speak for
Devin.
yourself. Yeah. Speak for yourself. I don't know if you rode around with me the rest of the day, but yeah, that's okay. You can go ahead and say you don't do anything. I'm sure there'll be a pink slip waiting on you Monday morning. No,
They're already aware.
Devin, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to go another direction because you evidently don't do anything. And you said it on air.
Oh man! Can we edit that out?
No, this is live. So there you
How many
go.
times have we tried to edit something out?
Well, we were successful at least once, but
We were.
But I think that's like Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about that, right?
Don't talk about Fight Club.
But you know what we can talk about?
We can talk about our guest.
Absolutely, we can.
And then we can talk to our guest, which is even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are talking today to Pat Scanlin. He's a financial advisor, and Nate.
You were so
other
close.
things,
You were
too.
so close. You almost had it. You had it. So, ladies and gentlemen,
a graduate of West Point.
there you go. Artillery officer,
Absolutely.
and a financial advisor for.
Alex Brown / Raymond James.
Okay, there you go.
Good
You
job.
did it, man. That was
Yeah.
so pro.
Well,
So what happened is I was looking at Brad's face and I completely lost it.
The glory.
He
It was the glory.
He made me laugh, and so let's just get over to Pat. Pat, introduce yourself,
Hey,
please.
Pat, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for having me again today. Appreciate the opportunity to chime in with what's going on at Purple Heart Homes. Calling from great downtown Chicago. I do spend time in North Carolina. I have a lot of good friends there. I've been traveling those roads to Statesville and Mooresville and places like that where I have a lot of veteran friends and people I serve with. So proud to be here and look forward to the conversation with you guys.
That's awesome, man. Hey, Pat, do me a favor. Give us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how did the road from growing up being a kid, running around doing what kids do, to ending up at West Point? How did that matriculate? Ooh.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of like a lot of things. I think a lot of veterans end up where they end up for no particular reason or mindset other than that's what happened. So similar with me, my dad was an electrician, my mom nurse who grew up on the South Side. Being I'm a Sox fan, here's my medallion just in case you got your Cub
He's
fans
got
out
for
there.
those that
wow.
can't see, he's got a White Sox medallion.
Yeah, so I was pretty good in football. So I got a scholarship to play in high school and I got recruited in college. And all my family had served. No one was a career. My dad was Army Air Corps. I had two cousins who were in Vietnam. One didn't come back. Bronze Star recipient from World War II. Two Navy veterans from Korea. So I'd been around veterans. Again, no one did a career. So as I went on to go to college, I got recruited a number of schools and wasn't good enough to play Big Ten or places like UNC or anything in the SEC. But, West Point Air Force Academy came to my doorstep and I ended up going to West Point. So that was kind of like the beginning of how I became a veteran and why I served go to a good school, play football. I did play against Marino and Doug Flutie during the 80s. So I was there 80 to 84.
Wait. What position did you play?
Outside linebacker. So I played.
What, did you sack him?
Yeah. And I guess everyone in my office, my friends know this too. In 1981, Army Navy game. I think it was ABC Sports. It was Keith Jackson was calling it.
Keith Jackson.
I played outside linebacker. So the Navy had a chip shot on the 5 yard to kick the field goal to basically win the game, but no one blocked me, so I blocked the field goal.
No kidding.
Go
Wow.
Army.
Oh,
So
I thought I was going to like you.
so that's my claim to
I
fame.
do.
3 times. Only 7 of them in history. But
Wow,
So,
that is
yeah.
pretty impressive.
So when I do sometimes I'll do talks in high schools on career development and being a veteran, and I often will mention that there's times in life like sports where you have one event comes to your life and you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden it could be a game changer. And life is often like that, as we know in the real world and as a veteran. So, but anyway, I don't want to get off track. Your question. Artillery guys can sometimes get off track. We need
You don't
we need
say.
to constantly get being back to give me the coordinates. 8 digits. Let us know where you want them. So I went to Ranger School. After my 4 years at West Point, I got stationed on the Czech border, top secret clearance. We were part of the NATO and the Fulda Gap and all that. So it was all Cold War, pre-Gulf War service that I did with a great experience that was part of being a young soldier living in Europe and all the tremendous things about going to foreign countries. And I think there's a joke in there from Stripes, maybe, but
let's not get started about Stripes.
Yeah, you go to exotic places.
Great story.
Yeah. So my story in service ends after 5 years of being on the Czech border in Europe, and didn't know what I was going to do. I got hired by Boeing in Toronto. Worked there for the de Havilland division. Then I got accepted to Booth School of Business, by the way, and applied 3 times. So those of us in this world of constant adversity, and we know from the military, when you get told no at one booth, go to the next. Mm-hmm. Ask the same question. And if they tell you no, go to the next one. So that's another story of how I got into the top business school in the country. I just didn't take no for an answer. I did have to, and like we all have our stories like that. So Booth School of Business, flash forward 25 years in finance, and I'm now part of on campus at University of Chicago, board president of the Military Affairs Group at University of Chicago that serves veterans on campus and in the community.
Wow, Pat, and we're going to definitely want to hear a little bit more about that, but we're getting ready to come up on a break. So if you want to hear about what Pat's doing at the University of Chicago, just tune right back on in.
I want to hear more about that errant round he was talking about that went into Czechoslovakia.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We'll be right back. And we are in a Facebook /YouTube /
it's like show hole.
Show hole? I don't know what that means.
Being in the show hole, you don't know what that is. So let's just say you've lined up all of the shows you want to watch. You've been excited about on like Netflix and Prime or whatever, and then you watch them, and then there's nothing new coming out, and you're like, I don't know what to watch. I'm in the show hole.
This is the show hole. So this is the thing that people tune into when they don't have anything else that they want to watch.
No, it's when we don't have anything else to talk about. It's the whole of the show. It's the whole, not the W.
I'm so glad to hear that
this is the radio hole.
It's not what I was thinking that people didn't.
I don't know why your mind goes where it goes. I really don't. I don't. There's your social media post for the day. I don't know why Devin's mind does what Devin's mind does.
You know, the neurologist doesn't either.
Yeah, you know, I heard his story about when Devin went to the VA and the neurologist did all these tests, and he was like, "You, sir, are an enigma."
Yeah.
There is nothing in modern science can do anything good for you.
Pretty much. I have an official diagnosis that I'm a little off in the head.
That's the scientific definition.
Yeah, that's it. It's
I got papers to prove it.
Something's not firing up there, right?
That's exactly right. Lord,
I was like, man, people have been telling me that for a long time.
And it's finally been confirmed.
That's right.
So awesome. For those that are still hanging around here on Facebook, we got Pat Scanlin joining us from the lovely city of Chicago, the Windy City. And
yes, sir.
How's the weather in the Windy City today?
Windy.
Yeah.
Man, that's
Imagine
unexpected.
that.
We still got all the pizza you want, all the hot beef sandwiches again. We talked about it earlier.
That's right.
Oh yeah. That was
hot beef sandwiches.
And only hot dogs with mustard on them. We don't put ketchup on mustard on hot dogs here.
Oh, don't y'all put all like the accoutrements. Is that the right word?
Accoutrements. Accoutrement. It's a French word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that.
Joe, Devin's bringing us back in.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way. Just boop, boop,
Back
boop.
and forth.
We're back. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We've got a great guest for you, Pat Scanlin. And Brad's over here making googly eyes at me. I don't know what's happening. That's He's like, are you going to start talking sometime
I'm
soon?
doing my best to try to make you laugh. So.
Well, that's not really very hard. It's,
My favorite part about the show is when you're introducing our guests and then forget who they are.
if I
And
can
what they
keep
did.
from
doesn't
looking at
forget.
you,
He doesn't forget anything. He just he looks at you and he can't get the words to come out. He hasn't forgotten.
I think I need to
words.
start wearing like those dark glasses where I can't actually see.
Like these?
Yeah.
All right. How's that? Is that better?
I mean, that's not helping me.
Oh, I thought, okay.
But for those of you who can't see, Brad is now wearing the glasses.
Well, you asked me to put them on.
I didn't.
Okay,
No one
back,
did.
voice, back.
You know what? You know who doesn't wear glasses?
back.
That's Pat Scanlin. Hey, Pat.
At least right now. But Devin, we all know that the VA has paperwork on you, and that's the most important thing.
That is the most
That's
important.
right.
Today's
Yeah.
broadcast. They're all
And
good.
several three-letter agencies as well.
Yeah.
But
That's true. Yeah, Pat, you were telling us a little bit about your time at West Point. Hey, you got a funny story from where you told us about the time you were a superhero in the Army-Navy game, and you and you single-handedly defeated Navy with a blocked field goal. Is there a ridiculous cadet story that you can remember from your time at West Point? Something that somebody did that just sticks out in your memory. You went, wow.
how long is that question, Brad?
Yeah.
You're starting to get a little context to it.
Brad, there's so much material there. Isn't there a quote from Willy Wonka? We have so much time, so little to do. Wait, stop, reverse that.
That's
Something of
right.
that sort.
Yeah.
The time at West Point is like a time of being in a meat grinder. The academics are so brutal, and then playing football and everything else. And there's a lot of little accolades. I mean, one of the things that we did for pure entertainment was. And I think it was part of the 80s where you could take an orange and launch it across a academic building into another area where someone else might be walking through unbeknownst and have an orange land near them. So sometimes we didn't have too much going on campus. We didn't have bars and things like that. So we had to come up with some creative things.
But what if the orange hits somebody?
Yeah. Well, the idea was to kind of get near them, but we never found out what it did or didn't do. But that might be one that kind
was
of
that
comes to
sort
mind.
of a precursor to your career as an artilleryman?
Yeah, indirect fire. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
God's plan. God's plan. I had a mission in life, and that's. I think
Indirect-
you're right. Yeah.
Indirect
Thank
oranges.
you for clarifying that for me.
Well,
I never knew why I became an artillery guy.
trying to that's all we do here is connect the dots and put the pieces back together.
Wow.
I feel better about
like
myself
that.
now.
That's pretty good.
How about your time on the Czech border? Did something silly happen while you were there?
No, nothing that I could talk about, of course.
Right.
But the most interesting things that were going on in Europe, though, in that time, you might remember there was a lot of terrorist events that were happening not only in the Berlin disco,
Yep.
the Red Army faction. So there was bombings in Greece. They were in Spain. The Munich and Frankfurt airports. So there was a lot of that going on. And oddly enough, another thing, I think it was 1987, that thing called Chernobyl. I remember them saying, like, don't worry, the wind is blowing that direction.
Wow.
And you just go about your day.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that did happen. But there's movies about it now, and I think I'm okay. I think I'm fine. I have all my faculties, as they say. But with the check border and the Fulda Gap, there was, and even though having a top secret clearance and all that, it was a war that a Cold War that really nothing happened of consequence. Thankfully. So
Yeah, but it was serious business, each and every day, I'm sure. I mean, because you were getting, intel about, enemy or, opposing forces that were doing what they were doing, and you guys were having to react to all of that, I'm sure.
yeah, and there's soldiers are people, they're families, they have things going on, and when we get alerted, I think we got alerted every Thanksgiving morning for 3 years, and when you roll out for a couple of weeks, yeah, I wasn't married or anything, so I was just a single guy. But a lot of people had families and things. So that's a those are changes that people have to do, and not everybody likes to live in a foreign land. It's a phenomenal experience. For me, it was a chance of a lifetime. But those are things that a lot of soldiers have to deal with, and we have things about PTSD now. Yep. That happened during Absolutely. Conflict. There's also other challenges that happened even during peacetime too.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the every Thanksgiving? What's that about?
Well, you might remember the anniversary of the Tet Offensive happened on I think it was the New Year, right?
Right. Yeah, I can't remember.
So there's correlations in history with things happening on holidays. So I think the whole Thanksgiving rollout when we were there, and our unit was in Nuremberg, was kind of correlated with that. So I don't know. The government does things they want to do when they want to do them, and and then you got to just do what you got to do.
Yep. And you salute and say Roger that.
You guys all know that line.
Oh
yeah,
yes.
Sure.
Oh yes.
So coming out of the military, I guess you came out. Did you come out as a captain?
Yes, captain. Yes.
And so then it was that point you went back to school, and you were telling us about Boot School of Business, right? Which is kind of the premier business school in the United States. Can you tell our audience just a little bit about, why is that and what's the history behind the Boot School of Business?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's a private institution. It was endowed by Rockefeller 1890s, and it became an establishment that was known as kind of the Ivy League of the Midwest. So there's been Nobel laureates for decades, especially in the School of Economics and other parts of the institution. So it became a great minds university that over the decades created a great reputation for research. Oddly enough, though, and after the first Heisman Trophy recipient was honored, I think it was in 1933, possibly. The university had decided that that sports and other activities were a distraction to academia. So
really,
the ROTC program was canceled shortly after World War I, and sports were canceled for a time period. So flash forward, University of Chicago over a century has been a top school, and it became even more prominent after, like in the 70s and the 80s. Again, the research there and the endowment that's behind it was all part of that. So flash forward to the 80s and 90s when every soldier who was departing the service was told really the way to breach the gap, go to a top business school. And so University of Chicago was one of those, and you had to have the GMAT and the grades, and there were ways to get in through some other things, but you really had to have the grades, so took the GMAT 3 times, was denied 2 times, applied the 3rd time, and I got in.
Wow.
So it was and I had moved away from home. I had been away from home 10 years at that point. So to come back to Chicago and be part of that program was
Is
a
it
great
is it an MBA
opportunity.
program? It's an MBA.
Yeah, MBA. Yeah, and it was called the GSB then. Now it's called Booth by basis of money that's endowed to that program, the MBA program. Yes.
Okay.
And today it's one of the top veteran universities in America. USA Today. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were regularly posting veteran institutions across America. I was like every three or 6 months. So the Booth School or the University of Chicago in aggregate had been voted one of the top veteran universities in the country.
That's really interesting. Well, I know that like SunTrust Bank and some of the other big banks were recruiting directly with folks that I served with coming out. They were they were captains, and when I was at Fort LeBragg or Fort Liberty, but they didn't require them to have an MBA to come work for them. They had this transition program where they would hire. I mean, it was an investment banking program. So you're talking about going from coming out of a military, maybe you're a captain making, $80,000 a year, going to investment banking where you're looking at multiple six figures multiplied 4 or 5 times over. And then what they would do is that they would recruit them out and then send them as an MBA and send them to school while they were working there, right? It's a really interesting program. So all of that, and that's just been relatively recently, so.
Yeah. And to your point, that's recently. And I will tell you in the 90s, being a veteran was a question mark when you interviewed. You would show up and as I did, and they'd read your resume. What does that mean? You were a lieutenant, now you're a captain. What does that mean? How does that?
Hey, Pat, we're going to have to put a pin in it right there. You have been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We'll catch you right after this break.
For veterans.
Lights off.
I was going to say, I can hear nothing.
This is now exclusive content time.
Exclusive content time.
Only for our Facebook and YouTube people and Twitter or X.
I don't know if anybody's actually.
Yeah, they are actually. There's like. Thank you.
Really?
I told you. I just told you.
Wow.
You also told me the name of your punk band several times, which is complete fabrication. So how am I to believe anything you say?
My punk band in the 80s was I Just Told You.
And there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Myrtle County, North Carolina, live for one show only, I Just Told You.
I just told you.
Yeah. Does it seem more echoey in here now?
It does.
Like,
it's super echoey.
Was there some kind of amplification that you did over there?
I hit the table.
Oh, okay. Do you remember? I just want to tell everybody in the early days of Devin's radio career, he was, I would say, very
animated.
Animated in his. He gesticulated with his hands a lot and would beat on the table when you talked. Do you remember that? When you first came on, you were doing the project of the week, and you would beat. Well, we've got this veteran out there in Connecticut. And then you would beat the table, right? And we were going, John and I were going, quit beating the table. It's so loud.
Well, I was doing that for emphasis.
There you go.
It definitely emphasized something.
This is meaningful.
When I'm talking in person, a lot of times Durant hates this. If you're listening, I'll get ready to make a point, and I'll take my hands and I'll go.
Oh, you do this?
Yeah, but
what does that mean? Does that mean something?
Well, no, I can do it a lot louder, but I didn't want to, make the.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but if your hands don't hurt after you did it, you didn't do it
not
hard
working.
enough. Oh yeah, so you got to cup your hands and just
sort
like
of a
smack.
litmus test.
Yeah, it's
hand
absolute
smacking.
hand smacking, and
Okay,
that.
I think it's this time it's you.
Yeah,
This time it's me.
This is weird.
Okay, 10 seconds. This is weird. Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. Somehow, my mic was not doing what it was supposed to do, and then it did it, and then it blew everybody's eardrums out. That
my
was
gosh.
fantastic.
I know how
That was
Brad
wonderful.
and John
Wow.
and Tammy feel now.
That was incredible.
My ears
have-
just
You have
exploded.
empathy now. You have empathy. You're very empathetic. That's where you feel for another human being.
Right. Where you can actually put yourself in their shoes.
You did.
I had sympathy for you before,
Right.
But now you have
but
empathy.
now I have empathy.
Now you know.
And speaking of empathy, we
Yeah.
have our friend Pat Scanlin on the show today.
I'm not sure if that was such a great
Well, I don't know, but it's a good sketch. Yeah. We are feeling that we have Pat Scanlin on the show today. I feel his presence, even though he's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Pat,
So-
save us from this. I don't know where this is
Right.
going.
Well, so Pat has been
I'm
joining
not sure
us.
where to jump in here.
Yeah, there you go. Pat's been joining us the whole show. It's been a great show so far. Pat's a West Point grad and served in the Army after going to West Point as an artillery officer, and got out and went to Boots School of Business, and now he is part of the Raymond James organization, right? Which is a
Yes, sir.
financial planning. Raymond James has their name on. Raymond James has his name on a lot of things,
Yeah.
like some stadiums. There's some stadiums that has his name on it. So, do you hang out with Mr. James? Does he hang out? He's like the office across from you?
We have it's nationwide for in all major cities, and I do hang around with a lot of our fellow veterans. From the veteran standpoint, we have a group. It's called VFAN, Veterans for Financial Advisors. There's 6 of us nationwide on that board, and also the group under the umbrella organization called Valor. Valor is kind of the more or less from a standpoint of when we look to recruit veterans to the organization who might join in any part of the group, whether it's in the financial side or maybe in the operations side. And Tampa is very close, as you guys both know, to the Special Ops Command. Mm-hmm. So we have a very, very cool cyber room, by the way.
Oh.
Really?
If any of you are ever in the Tampa area and you want me to come and meet you, the cyber room on the Tampa headquarters is very cool, and it's very topical, as we all know what's going on in that space. So yeah, little shout out to my veteran folks all in Tampa.
That is really cool. So, yeah, and bring our listeners up to speed on what the Veterans Program is all about within your company.
Yeah, so it's and thanks. Yeah, so like a lot of organizations, the veteran program came about over some years, and going back to the conversation in the 90s where it was questioned, and what does that mean you were a veteran? What does that mean you served in the infantry? There's the societal standpoint on the veteran, I think, has ramped up. There's more visibility on what the veteran world is all about. And it's more prominent, not only in companies, but at the university or at the University of Chicago, where I'm board president. So the awareness of the veteran became part of all the other affinity groups. Like women's has been around probably the longest, you might say. They have a lot further to go. All these groups have more work to do. But the veteran world came about, I would say, in my opinion, about 7 or 8 years ago. And a lot of the organizations in the country are doing it. As it relates to Raymond James, we have groups where if a veteran, for example, this happened this week, someone at University of Chicago, 20-year service, has a master's already, is thinking about getting a further degree, is interested in coming into finance and not sure where he wants to end up. So at Raymond James, and I think at other companies too across the nation, there are veteran entities that are there to receive that that veteran and find a place for him or her to have a process where other veterans in the organization can evaluate and assist to see if there is a fit for him in the organization. And so that's one of the things that we do where I can, when I run into someone like this, I can submit them to our committee in Tampa, and the process can get rolling like that.
So y'all help them go into find the right billet for them, so
Right.
to speak.
Very nice.
Yeah,
to put it in
And
military terms.
like when you're job searching at any company, it's kind of a black hole. And nowadays more so where everything is electronic and the face fronting aspects of the career search process has become more arm's length, which makes it trickier unless you know somebody. So veterans at companies where there's a veteran recipient group now know somebody.
Yep.
And in a lot of cases that can facilitate and expedite a process.
What do veterans bring to the table? I mean, obviously, if you come out and you got you've been an artillery dude or an infantry guy, right? And then you're making that transition. It's like, hey, come work at Raymond James, and we do finance, right?
They're kings of the financial battlefield.
Yeah, and why?
Nice.
What is it about veterans that makes them attractive as far as being potential employees?
Yeah, good question, and it applies, I think, in a broader scheme too for employment in many arenas. What do people look for when they're hiring? They look for character. They look for integrity. They look for values. They look for things that they can see upon somebody as part of their team. They're looking for people that they can rely on. People who know what the term "suck it up" means. People who know that there is a 1 + 1 = 3 utility when you have veterans. The combined arms operation mentality. These are the attributes, in my opinion, that bring the veteran to a table where he or she can fit into any puzzle. For all of us that have served like you guys, that is one of the things that is bestowed upon us, to be thrown into something, figure it out. I've always said the key of a veteran that can do this. You show up to someone's house, they're about to have 100 people walk into a party and their cabinets are falling off the wall. A veteran can figure out the situation, how to Band-Aid it, at least to get the party going,
Right.
And we can.
Yeah.
We have ways. We've been in those situations where it's mayhem. We got limited time to get it done. So all companies are looking for people like this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so y'all just figure out how to put that skill set to a practical use in the financial world. Is that right?
Yeah, and I paraphrase it this way. We look for, and I think all companies do this again, that we look to see what the skills of person A or B are, where they might match up accordingly to the different jobs that are out there in the arena of, in this example, Raymond James. So and I think that's part of any standard hiring process. You look where there's gaps and where people like this, people of character, integrity, values, and people want to have fun too.
Yeah.
Where you work 8 hours, you got to be able to joke around like you guys do, and be able to have pass time and still have fun, get the job done, and make things better.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that's fantastic. So we've got a couple minutes before we're going to go to our final break of the show, but when you think about this question, many of the veterans that are coming into the workforce now, served in combat, either Iraq or Afghanistan, and maybe they spent 10, 15 years, in the military, and their military experiences were defined by a lot of trauma. And is the business world cognizant of that? And we got a minute before break, and I just want you to think about that question. Is it, from y'all's perspective, as you look at these veterans coming in, or is that something that you plan for? And you go, hey, we're hiring people that are very bright and got a lot going for them, but they've been through a lot, right? And we need to make the rest of our team aware of that. Is that?
Yep.
Just think about that for a second, and maybe how you would respond to that, and we'll come back after break and address that, and then maybe hear more about your daughters on TikTok when we come back, because evidently they're TikTok experts.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
That's what I hear. So, yeah, we'll do that. We're going to be right back after this break. We're going to hear from our sponsors because they're fantastic. If you want to find out more about Purple Heart Homes, go to phhusa.org. We'll see you in just a few. That we don't. That we don't have.
Oh, I completely understand. You know, we're live, right?
Inside baseball aspect of putting the pieces back together, where we talk about how we should transition into the break and out of the break, and this is just that part of the show where we
we're
learn
trying to figure things out in here.
We are trying to.
Yeah, I typically watch the show clock, and there is no show clock.
There is not a show clock.
So right now I'm trying to go in my own head about how much time is.
You're having to reformulate things in your brain.
But you
I
said
do.
that there's an issue up there. You said that earlier.
Without the
You have
visualization
documentation.
of the show clock,
Doesn't work for you.
I have no idea what's
No
happening.
concept of time.
It's no concept.
I don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
Right.
we still have one more break.
We do. No, the next break is when the show ends.
Is this the final break?
Yeah.
This is.
And you can't count either.
Oh my gosh! I can't count either. Wow.
You need to. I'll tell you what you need.
But then I thought, well,
You
maybe
need a
Devin's right.
permanent show clock for your
Just
life
look at Joe.
that you just carry around.
Can we get that? But we've been saying we're gonna have some drinks on there
On the air?
a few times. You know, I'm gonna book Southern Distilling as our guest.
And let them bring some drinks.
Yeah.
I like where your head's at.
I'm thinking, and in the new studio, I think it would really translate well.
I think so.
Yeah, we could bring some dancers in.
Yeah,
Like some cloggers.
I don't. Oh, cloggers.
They're gonna bring cloggers
on
in.
the table.
Cloggers?
Of course.
Well, you
Well,
don't-
I don't know.
Pat, what do you think about this?
Two words, good at math.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say I was gonna try to put an application in at Raymond James, but I don't think I could do it.
I don't think
I don't think
I'm
I
a
could do
numbers
it.
guy.
you might as well
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
thinking about it.
I'm good at math, but not so good at articulating sentences.
We all have our gifts.
Yeah.
Dave's calling me.
We all have our specialty in life.
Well, that's because.
Dave. I don't know.
It says Dave Nah.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together with your host, Brad Borders, and me, Devil Dog Devin, because John Gallina is yet again on a secret mission.
Dun dun dun.
Which he will never tell us about. So don't.
Hey.
Yeah,
It's all right.
yeah,
Okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, it's
But
we do have Pat Scanlin.
Yes, we do.
and he's way more
And he's
entertaining.
way more entertaining than us. So
Yeah.
Pat Scanlin
I'd
is.
rather be funny than entertaining, though, so I'm working on that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, Pat's a West Point grad, artillery officer. Now works at with Raymond James as a financial planner and does a lot of work with veterans in their company. And we've been chatting with him about that. And the question that I asked prior to the break is that a lot of the veterans that maybe they're hiring now come with a lot of baggage, maybe from their time in service after maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 combat deployments. And how does a civilian organization like Raymond James kind of take, look at that, and is there some awareness that those are the kind of folks that are coming in, albeit bright and high performers, but maybe coming in with some damage done to them by what the country asked them to do?
Yes, yeah, and it's a big thing. It's a great question, and it's an ongoing process. I think with what's going on in our society, I think the data still is 17 self-inflict every day.
Yeah.
And at University of Chicago, yeah, and we do a march every Memorial Day for that. That's a 17 miles, which is back basically from campus downtown Chicago and back. And we had 2 years ago. About 3,500 people did that. So,
Oh, no kidding.
Wow.
yeah.
So it's 17 miles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
and
17 that's
you start at
self-inflict.
it's an out and back route. You start at campus and you come back.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
so you can walk it or jog it. Some of the hardcore vets took a backpack and
Yep. Rucket.
put it with rocks,
Rucksack.
just and jogged it. But to your point, it's still an ongoing process. The awareness of what is going on in the Middle East, especially in these more recent 15 years or so, is still it's coming around to the point that you can see this flag behind me is a piece of artwork. It's at a little bit of a distance, but it's made of bottle caps. And the veteran who did that was shot down in Afghanistan. I think it was in 2014, and he survived. And he makes these for organizations across the country. For example, he's from Kansas City, and the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a wonderful bunch of rooms at the stadium, and he has these all across the nation. He does for all the services. So that's just one example I happen to have on topic for this. But to the question, yeah, it's still I think ongoing, and there's certainly more visibility about it than I think 5 and 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, trauma is something that, and I mean, not just veterans experience that, but
Everyone does.
every human
Absolutely.
being
Yeah.
experiences trauma in their life, and I think it's incumbent upon whatever organization it is, just be aware of the people you're hiring, whatever it is they might be bringing in with them. And then one of the things that we like to say is people over profits, and because if you don't hone in on your people and nurture them and give them all the tools they need to succeed, you're not going to have any profits, right?
Right.
There's not going to be any profit at all, right? If we don't we don't take care of our folks. So
Yes.
appreciate that. What you got coming up in the next 6 months? What are you excited about in the veteran space with what you do? What do you got coming up?
Sure. We have with what we have at the University of Chicago to speak to that group. We're planning. We have one or maybe possibly two career development conferences. We've done in the past, for example, on the topic of technology. So we had 5 or 6 veterans who've gone through the transition, and now they're well into their careers. But we do a Zoom broadcast that allows all the veterans on campus, the alumni, and we also partner with other universities across the nation. And in this example would be University of South Florida, Tulane, Wake Forest. There's others, and they can call it. They can dial into the Zoom and hear what veterans who worked at Microsoft or other technology companies that you would recognize and their process. Like you're talking to me today. How did you do it? What were the barriers? What were the issues that came across during your campaign to do the career transition and all these type of things? So that's one thing. I do mentor 2 to 3 veterans every year. So and that comes also from here locally. Raymond James, for example, we have an annual golf outing that is veteran focused. That's coming up this September. I have multiple events that I have I'm a VA member, and I use my VA here at Hines, Illinois. So I have stuff at the VA that I'm doing this year. My daughter has volunteered for the last 3 years. They're also it's kind of a family thing. I think I mentioned I have 3 teenagers at home. And my wife, who's a 4th grade teacher, every year I go into her classroom and it's either at Veterans Day or Memorial Day. But we do a presentation where I come in my artillery dress blues, which I can still fit in.
Nice.
Wow, that's
great.
impressive,
the
sir.
yeah, believe me, it takes some doing. But the kids prepare questions for me, and they also interview a family veteran, and they post these interviews in the classroom. And my wife, Mary Kelly, she's an angel. I think she probably would have been infantry though if she had served, and I think she wished she had. But she orchestrates this all in her fourth grade classroom. So those are a few of the events that I have coming on board. There's others too beyond that.
That's really cool, man. That is really cool.
So what does that mentoring program look like for you?
Yeah, so I will randomly come across somebody, whether it's at University of Chicago or maybe someone through a friend of a friend. Often happens too, says, can you talk to this veteran? He or she is not sure what they want to do. They're considering, they might be considering consulting or whatever, so that I will have them come to me and I will assist them with the process. And we all know, like, the veteran mentality, and I think you guys can all appreciate this. There's a when you go down the scroll hole, if you're in a direction, it's very hard. Once you determine where you're going to go, you're kind of gone, and then you're heading that direction, even though it might not be the best fit. And we find this through the mentoring process. The best thing we can do is to get veterans early on in that transition so they have information to make the decision where to choose, which directions to go, and importantly, which ones not to choose. I think
that is tremendously important.
Like if you don't want to travel every day of the week and make good money, but you don't want to travel, you can't do consulting. Okay, so put that aside.
Yeah.
And by determining what you don't want to do,
Yeah.
you can better focus and find what you do want to do. And I'm having worked in the military, of course, Boeing as a shop floor supervisor, and worked in many aspects of finance. And I deal with people as an advisor in their careers constantly, to include my teenagers who I'm trying to get to college too, right? So I am constantly involved in career conversation. And I'm to my own efforts, I'm a great conduit for people who are trying to decide where to go, Pat. Where would be the best way to approach this challenge? So
I really like that litmus test of figure out what you don't want to do.
That's
Right?
true.
Because how many times do we hear of people, they grab the first thing smoking coming out the door of the military because it looked good and they dangled a paycheck in front of them and then they find out, like, oh my gosh, I hate this job. This dude is killing me, man, and it's not what I thought it was going to be. And I think asking that question, that's a great mentor-mentee relationship question, just to say, hey, what do you not want to do?
Absolutely.
Right?
yeah, it's one I struggled with myself when I came out. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what advice, aside from what not want to do, would you give those veterans that are transitioning?
So to rephrase the question, what are things to avoid, pitfalls that you want to be aware of? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. First, I would say understand the process, the mindset. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
2, also be under the mindset that with trying to discover where your choice is, that it's going to take a lot of effort of your due diligence to constantly reach out to people and find out from those you might want to have a conversation about what they're doing for a career choice, have those discussions with them, and have a process that's organized so that you in your own mind can have it. You can have an ability to take this big wide open space and have some kind of a direction and something that makes sense to you, how you can organize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And reach out to as many people, again, I'm saying that again,
Yeah.
because that is critical. reach out specifically to veterans.
Yeah.
I will say this, in what I do for a living, reaching out to a random person, you might have a 3 to 5, maybe 8% success rate. Reaching out to another veteran,
Yep.
I think is like closer to 50 or 80.
Yeah.
You might be told no, but you're going to get a response.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Pat.
use the veteran world.
All right, brother. We are coming to the end of the show, and
Yeah.
we are so thankful that you took time out of your life to spend with us. We'll be looking out for more from you. You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We will see you next week.
See you there.